An estimated 70,000 people witnessed the miracle of the sun in 1917. Luckily, because of technology, we still have the accounts of doctors, newspapers, and general lay people who witnessed the miracle with their own eyes. Maria de Culpina, one of the earliest believers, she said,
"The sun turned everything to different colors, yellow, blue, and white. Then it shook and trembled. It looked like a wheel of fire that was going to fall on the people. They began to cry out, 'We shall all be killed.' Others called to Our Lady to save them. They recited acts of contrition. One woman began to confess her sins aloud, advertising that she had done this and that. When at last the sun stopped leaping and moving, we all breathed our relief. We were still alive, and the miracle which the children had foretold had been seen by everyone."
Father Ignacio Lorenzo, who was about 11 miles away, said,
"I was only 9 years old at this time, and I went to the local village school. At about midday, we were surprised by the shouts and cries of some men and women. Outside, the people were shouting and weeping and pointing to the sun, ignoring the agitated questions of the schoolmistress. It was the great miracle, which one could see quite distinctly from the top of the hill where my village was situated. I feel incapable of describing what I saw and felt. I looked fixedly at the sun, which seemed pale and did not hurt the eyes, looking like a ball of snow revolving on itself. It suddenly seemed to come down in a zigzag, menacing the earth. Terrified, I ran and hid myself among the people who were weeping and expecting the end of the world at any moment. Near us was an unbeliever who had spent the morning mocking at the simpletons who had gone off to Fatima just to see an ordinary girl. He now seemed to be paralyzed, his eyes fixed on the sun. Afterwards, he trembled from head to foot and lifting up his arms fell on his knees in the mud, crying out to Our Lady during those long moments of the solar prodigy. Objects around us turned all the colors of the rainbow. We saw ourselves blue, yellow, red, etc. After about 10 minutes, the sun, now dull and pallid, returned to its place. When the people realized that the danger was over, there was an explosion of joy, and everyone joined in thanksgiving and praise to Our Lady."
We also have the account of Dr. Almeida Garrett, a PhD of Cumbria University, who gave us a very academic account of the miracle of the sun.
"I was looking at the place of the apparitions, in a serene, if cold, expectation of something happening, and with diminishing curiosity, because a long time had passed without anything to excite my attention. Then I heard a shout from thousands of voices and saw the multitude suddenly turn its back and shoulders away from the point toward which up to now it had directed its attention, and turn to look at the sky on the opposite side. The sun, a few moments before, had broken through the thick layer of clouds which hid it, and shone clearly and intensely. I veered to the magnet which seemed to be drawing all eyes, and saw it as a disk with a clean-cut rim, luminous and shining, but which did not hurt the eyes. I do not agree with the comparison which I have heard made in Fatima, that of a dull silver disk. It was a clearer, richer, brighter color, having something of the luster of a pearl. It did not in the least resemble the moon on a clear night because one saw it and felt it to be a living body. It looked like a glazed wool made of mother of pearl. It could not be confused, either, with the sun seen through fog, for there was no fog at the time, because it was not opaque, diffused or veiled. In Fatima it gave light and heat and appeared clear-cut with a well-defined RIMD. It was a remarkable fact that one could fix one's eyes on this brazier of heat and light without any pain in the eyes or blinding of the retina. The phenomenon must have lasted about 10 minutes, then, suddenly, one heard a clamor, a cry of anguish breaking from all the people. The sun, whirling wildly, seemed to loosen itself from the firmament and advance threateningly upon the earth as if to crush us with its huge and fiery weight. The sensation during those moments was terrible. During the solar phenomenon, which I have just described in detail, there were changes of color in the atmosphere. Looking at the sun, I noticed that everything around was becoming darkened. I looked first at the nearest objects and then extended my glance further afield as far as the horizon. I saw everything in amethyst color. Objects around me, the sky and the atmosphere, were of the same color. Fearing that I was suffering from an affection of the retina, an improbable explanation because in that case one could not see things purple-colored, I turned away and shut my eyes, keeping my hands before them to intercept the light, With my back still turned, I opened my eyes and saw that the landscape was the same purple color as before. The impression was not that of an eclipse, and while looking at the sun I noticed that the atmosphere had cleared. Soon after I heard a peasant who was near me shout out in tones of astonishment, "Look, that lady is all yellow." And in fact everything, both near and far, had changed, taking on the color of old yellow mask. People looked as if they were suffering from jaundice, and I recall a sensation of amusement at seeing them look so ugly and unattractive. My own hand was the same color. All the phenomena which I have described were observed by me in a calm and serene state of mind, and without any emotional disturbance.
The newspaper, O Seculo, a pro-government, anti-clerical Lisbon paper, wrote,
From the road, where the vehicles were parked and where hundreds of people who had not dared to brave the mud were congregated, one could see the immense multitude turn toward the sun, which appeared free from clouds and in its zenith. It looked like a plaque of dull silver, and it was possible to look at it without the least discomfort. It might have been an eclipse which was taking place. But at that moment a great shout went up, and one could hear the spectators nearest at hand shouting, "A miracle! A miracle!" Before the astonished eyes of the crowd, whose aspect was biblical as they stood bareheaded, eagerly searching the sky, the sun trembled, made sudden incredible movements outside all cosmic laws. The sun danced according to the typical expression of the people. Standing at the step of an omnibus was an old man. With his face turned to the sun, he recited the credo in a loud voice. I asked who he was and was told Señor João de Cunha Vasconcelos. I saw him afterwards going up to those around him who still had their hats on, and vehemently imploring them to uncover before such an extraordinary demonstration of the existence of God. Identical scenes were repeated elsewhere, and in one place a woman cried out, "How terrible! There are even men who do not uncover before such a stupendous miracle." People then began to ask each other what they had seen. The great majority admitted to having seen the trembling and the dancing of the sun, others affirmed that they saw the face of the Blessed Virgin, others, again, swore that the sun whirled on itself like a giant Catherine wheel and that it lowered itself to the earth as if to burn it in its rays. Some said they saw it change color successively.
Emmanuel Pereira de Silva, in a letter to a friend, wrote,
We made our arrangements and went in 3 motor cars on the early morning of the 13th. There was a thick mist, and the car which went in front mistook the way so that we were all lost for a time and only arrived at the Covadão area at midday by the sun. It was absolutely full of people, but for my part I felt devoid of any religious feeling. When Lucia called out, "Look at the sun," the whole multitude repeated attention to the sun. It was a day of incessant drizzle, but a few moments before the miracle it stopped raining. I can hardly find words to describe what followed. The sun began to move, and at a certain moment appeared to be detached from the sky and about to hurtle upon us like a wheel of flame. My wife, we had been married only a short time, fainted, and I was too upset to attend to her. And my brother-in-law, João Vassalo, supported her on his arm. I fell on my knees, oblivious of everything, and when I got up I don't know what I said. I think I began to cry out like the others. An old man with a white beard began to attack the atheists aloud and challenged them to say whether or not something supernatural had occurred.
So those are 5 witnesses of the miracle of the sun. I've edited down the accounts of some of these witnesses as some of them were quite long. If you do want to read the full accounts, I'll leave a link to that in the description.